You're welcome to Generations Gist with Joy. This show is generational based with emphasis on activities of younger individuals and how generational transition and individual experiences and relationships have impacted and shaped contemporary human behavior and national development and advancement. Our conversation today promises to be insightful, inspiring, and entertaining. We need you to just relax and enjoy it. I am your host, Joy Onu. But before we delve into today's discussion, let us go on a short break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The world is no longer a global village. It is a neighborhood. Generations come and go, but the gist they start lingers. The platform that sustains those gists is here. Be a part of the conversation on Generations Gist with Joy. From policymakers to politicians, medical personnel to traders, labor leaders to students, the young and the old. It's Generations Gist with Joy on this channel every Saturday at 9 a.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 9 a.m.
It's your generation, it's my generation, it's our generation.
Come, let's tag along on Generations Gist with Joy. Please join us.
You are welcome back. Our conversation today centers on youth development and leadership in Nigeria. Youth development is basically the process that prepares a young person to meet the challenges of adolescence and adulthood and achieve their full potential through the promotion of activities, experiences that helps the youth develop socio, ethical, emotional, physical, and cognitive competencies. While youth leadership is essentially the ability of the young people taking leadership initiatives and roles that impact their peers and the society at large by actively engaging in decision making and initiating positive change while developing skills like communication, problem solving, and critical thinking to empower themselves and others around them. In summary, Youth Development and Leadership in Nigeria is a program that provides young people with skills and resources to become leaders and active citizens, which helps them in contributing to their community and the country's development. However, our Nigerian youth breaking the glass ceiling in leadership program that can help in nation building. With this question, I have with me in the studio a very important and resourceful personality to unravel, educate, and dissect this very life-changing and important topic. And this great personality is a man who had worked over 20 years in various sectors and very versatile and innovative consultant, coach, and educator. He has helped organizations and individuals achieve their goals. One of his early work experience was with PZ Kusan PLC as sales marketing superintendent. He was editor-in-chief with Consign magazine, meaning he was a journalist, or he's still a journalist. He had worked with Zenith Bank for about 2 decades and rose to the management position, among which is group head, corporate communication, brand marketing. Then ventured into politics in his home state, Kogi State, where he contested for the senatorial seat twice under ADC and PDP in 2015 and 2023 respectively, until he resigned a couple of weeks ago from the PDP. He banked many master's degrees and PhDs to his credit. He is a fellow and faculty member of the National Institute of Credit Administration, NICA, among the numerous professional bodies he belonged to. To sum it up anyway, he is a development analyst, policy analyst, green and blue economic advocate, personal and corporate branding expert, communicator, resourceful personality, and a quiet philanthropist. In fact, his CV is very voluminous and so intimidating. Going through all he is will keep us here a whole day. In fact, if you want to know more about him, please go to Google or call me. I present to you Dr. Victor Aleo Adoji, aka DVAA. You are welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
You are so welcome to this show. In fact, I'm glad having you on this program.
Thank you.
In fact, first of all, I will want to quote one of your statements. It's a long one, but I will quote it verbatim. And I quote, "It's unfortunate that when we talk about Igala Basa youth today, what easily comes to mind is thuggery, touting, and other vices. The demographic that constitutes over 70% of our total population cannot be ignored, reduced, or painted in the same brush by some generalization. It wasn't like that in the past, and this phase created by some self-serving and self-seeking relatively members of the society must fade away unconditionally. I have said it in the past and I will say it again now. When I see youth, I see creativity, enterprise, and industry. The Nigerian entertainment gold mine is worth about $10.5 billion, and we must be determined to support our youth to unleash their entrepreneurial and creative talent to leverage and become economical independence. Also, the global creative industry is worth about $2.2 trillion and account for 50 million jobs worldwide, while the Nigerian creative industry is worth about $4.5 million. With the right policy and laws and the advantage of the youth bulge, Igala Basa youth can take into and tap into and account for a sizable chunk of the Nigerian market." End of quotes. From what we see on social media, Doctor, today the Igala Basa entertainment industry is everywhere. And based on your submission in these quotes, you localize this, your economic arrangements. You know, is there something you are doing to bring this to fruition? Or what do you think should be done to bring this, our Igala Basa youth who are into several industries, you know, to be able to compete or at par with others in the across the nation or in diaspora?
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Joy, for having me. First and foremost, in that lengthy quote, there are two underpinning concepts. One is the concept of entrepreneurial globalization, and the second is the concept of globalization. Now, globalization simply means global, localizing global, and globalization is just there. They globally look at the world as a global economy. And the entrepreneurial aspect of it is bringing your creativity, you know, to actually tap into the value chain. Now, having said that much, I am someone who believes in globalization, you know, using global best practices to leapfrog, you know, our potentials as well as our entrepreneurial spirits within our youths and young adults. As for empirical or specifics, what I have done, you know, I have tried, because I have limited resources, I have tried within the limits of my resources to try and see how I can use creativity in the area of sports, particularly football, to see how one can, as it were, engender creativity and again entrepreneurship, you know, business amongst the, you know, rank and file of the youth. In conjunction with the Kamar Football Academy, managed by one of the best, scouting brains that I know in that particular field, Kamar. We started to build, as it were, an Igala Nations, team under the auspices of the Igala Nations Cup. Now, within a matter of 2 years, the Igala Football Club became a National Division League football club. And within that period of 2 years, you know, we had about 3 youths who haven't traveled to Abuja before, now plying their trade, one in Hungary, one in Turkey, and I think the other one in Poland after the war in Ukraine, you know, broke. And we have the coaching crew and the players that were put on salary, and that has been on for a very long time. And then you can now see the interest that has engendered. Now, the effect of that is not only bimodal, it is multifocal to the extent that, you see, you pull them out of the streets into enterprise, and their entrepreneurship will now be given a platform, to exercise or to breathe and to impact, society. Secondly, they can now begin to earn money for themselves. I say football is not just about kick and follow. It's about tactics, it's about strategy, it's about camaraderie, it's about reaching out. The last time they had a camping session in Uyo, Akwa Ibom, where you had scouts, from I think Spain, come to see them. I think we're in the process of trying to see how they can get some of these players to be playing, in that field. We intend to use this, as how do I put it now? As a basis, to touch into other areas. One area I think is open for such engagement will be in the area of the motion TV, what we call acting, of course folklore, in the area of singing, in the area of comedy. The Igala Basayus, which is my focus because I ran for Senate, and those are actually people I was going to be representing, people who have huge resource that has been categorized as potential. So what I was bringing to the table is to give them vents, and to create a platform for them to exercise their creative, potentials for the world to buy, from which they can earn money.
Now, from what we are saying now, majority of our youths, especially of this generation, are faced with lots of challenges, which you are trying to, bridge the gap, but with poverty, neglect, which leads many of them into all those vices that you talked about, the touting, the toggery, and all such vices. What are you doing, or what is the policy that should be put in place, or do you think should be put in place for those vices, or how to engage these youth to be able to be of benefit to themselves and to the society?
First and foremost, let me build the foundation against which backdrop I will answer your question. Every human being on earth was poor at a point.
Yeah.
Every human being was poor. Now, those who are dimensioned today as rich and wealthy, actually escape the poverty trap by doing one thing or the other. Now I will focus on the legit aspect of escaping poverty.
Okay.
I have not regarded, and I will never regard those who make money through illicit means. A ritual killing that is on the uprise today. I don't know how they make money from such rituals. Yahoo, whatever. Still, those people don't belong to the equation that I'm talking about. But we are saying, you see, the mistake most governments make around the world is trying to think that money can mitigate poverty. There is no statistical, justification that money and what money has ever solved poverty anywhere. No, because once you give palliatives or you give people money, what you're actually doing is giving them money for unproductive activity. So, for example, someone is poor, you want to help the person, you give the person 100,000 a month. He doesn't expect that money to be given next month. But you can ask that person to work, and you pay that person 8,000 a month or 10,000 a month. I'm actually talking hypothetically.
Yes.
And the person now knows that the course of a year, he will actually be adding service. Now, in bringing service to create value, it is in the value chain that the person touches down a number of points that will actually multiply the money that you give to them. So let me put on record that no economist will tell you that giving money has ever solved poverty. If it has solved poverty, I will need evidence. But what has solved poverty is to look at the area of non-consumption and to create productivity in the sense that people apply themselves for which they are rewarded. And then the velocity and the multiplier effect can create more money within the system. So, with regards to what I intend to do, is to encourage and to build policies that will create a marketing place, a melting point for people to exchange ideas and create value.
Exactly.
China, some years back, realized the impact of policy and how policy can view challenges and as opportunities.
Okay.
And within a matter of a year, through policy, they experienced the youth board, and they were able to lift up to about 450 million youths and young adults out of poverty. How do you do that? You have the SMEs, which they can go into and then create jobs for them. I'll give you another example. People don't even know that all this trash you see around you, what you call solid waste, is actually money. So they can you can train them with the requisite skills or proficiencies for them to understand that when they see waste, they see money. Either through recycling or upscaling, upcycling, whichever brings money. It's like somebody telling you take somebody to a bush or to a forest, and when I say, oh, I'm seeing a lot of trees, somebody will tell you I'm seeing furnitures. It's about changing their perspectives to know that the strength actually comes from within.
And how do we do that?
I just said about skilling them up and training them. And you see, that's where again politics has been a very, very terrible inhibitor to the catalysis we need to move them forward. Everybody just thinks that, oh, somebody is the politician, he has a wagon of people supporting him, and he must give them stipends every day to keep them. That actually stifles their progress.
Exactly.
How many people can be involved in the office, per time? We are talking about making them first and foremost believe in themselves. The greatest problem we have is not even extrinsic problems. They're actually intrinsic. Reawakening the giant within them to let them believe in themselves, to know that with the strength of their hands, the wisdom in their heads, and the commitment of their hearts, they can go the extra mile.
Then talking about reawakening the giants in them, there are so many policies that have been established in Nigeria, a lot of policies here and there, especially in ministries and even in our own, in government at the lower level. That takes me to the Ministry of Youth and Development in Nigeria. One of the mission statements of the youth and development in Nigeria is to see the youth upskill, like you are saying, succeed and lead by creating opportunities that can uplift the youth through funding programs and skill training to mentorship and even employment and entrepreneurial initiative. Now, how much of this impacts are these youths? Are they feeling any of the impact? Do you see any impact the youths have felt through this kind of policies and what they say they are doing?
You answered that question in your opening statement. Because if there has been any valuable or verifiable impact, your opening statement will not have followed the way it followed. You see, when you call consultants to craft, vision and mission statements for you and give you the KPIs or the objectives, they'll do a very, very wonderful job. I don't care about how beautiful and how value-tying some of these write-ups have been. I'm talking about what is the result on the ground. So there's a huge void between what the ministry, the agency or department say it's cut out to do and what they are doing. It has come to a time in this country where ministers, DGs, head of parastatals should actually be made to decide whether they want to continue their offices on the basis of the reports they churn out. You send your child to school. If the child doesn't do well, he repeats a class. So what is the measuring yardstick for all these people who are supposed to be, guardians of these very, very beautifully crafted, wordings for their mission or vision statements? So I just say that we're, wordsmithers doing their best, and we mount what we want to do, but there are no practical evidences on ground as to the achievement. And year in, year out, maybe these people get budgetary allocations, but to what effect? I don't see the effect. So we need to tie targets to results. And where people don't achieve, we shift grounds. I'm sure people watch the EPL, or the La Liga, or the German Bundesliga. When managers don't perform, they don't keep them there. So you move the players to get those who are happy performance you can achieve. The ultimate goal is for you to win laurels. And if you're not winning, you need to leave. So you have been a DG, you have been a minister in a particular industry, a particular parastatal, year in, year out. And you are just happy that you're a minister from 1920 to 1900. But what is the achievement?
Exactly.
People should be recognized for what they achieved while they are in office. And in this particular case, we're talking about how you have been able to lift out of poverty, empower youths to the extent that the empowered youth becomes the empowerer of other youths.
Exactly.
Until that is done, then there is no achievement.
Are you saying that these youths are made because, the vices, all the things they do, are they created? Because in your statement, you also say they were created by some self-serving and self-seeking, relatively members of the society. And you said that must fade away.
Yeah.
And do you think the attitude of the youths of today, or all the vices and the things they are doing and not doing, are as a result of the creation by the...
A behavioral scientist was trying to enunciate a point as to how observation among children, influences their attitude. And the video he played was just simple. You see some children, I'm saying between toddlers and less than 5. Some walk with their hands behind, and some walk as if they are, they are grouping. Some walk as if they are crawling. And all these behaviors they learned from who they lived with. Those who lived with their grandparents walk as if they're actually struggling to walk. And those who walk with their friends. So observation is one of the highest points of learning, So when you talk about the youths, they learn by observation. Now, this is a country now where we don't question the source of people's wealth, and you hear you saying education is a scam. And you hear them say to you that, okay, you say you have all the qualifications in the world, but you are being headed by somebody who never went to school.
Exactly.
So there are no standards to look up to, but there are so many standards to look down to. So we need to change our patterns. We need to change our trajectories. We need to do a course correction. Otherwise, people learn by observation. Now, a politician performs ritual according to him to get into office. And because of that ritual, for example, people get to see. And this youth doesn't want to be a politician. But they tell him that, you can perform a ritual to be rich. And once you are rich, the whole world comes to your feet because nobody questions that. That's why somebody will have the temerity to butcher a human being into 40 parts, and yet he has parents who come and say they should forgive the child. Or that. So I don't know.
Would you also say that is as a result of the fault of the family units?
Well, there is this thing they call in psychology nature-nurture conflict. There's a natural instinct in man to survive, and there's a natural environment that keeps the man. So you say the chairs of government, they tell her the federal, they say state and local government, but I say it's 4. I say it's 4. And it's 4 in descending order. In descending order of priority for me, you have the federal, you have the state, you have the local government, and you have the family unit. So the family unit is actually the production line that throws these human beings into the society. So if the family unit is weak, it's actually production line problem. You throw into society. Now, you have a parent who works and earns 50,000 naira a month and has about 4 children. And has a wife who, because of our local engagements, which is not even captured in the computation of national income, earns about 30,000 a month. 80,000 for a family of 5.
6.
A family of 6. How do they survive? And that's why sometimes you have these parents look away when their children come home with possessions that they are not qualified to have. Now, when you don't take care of a child through school, through his feeding, through his accommodation, what rights do you have to control that child? Yeah. So what we're saying is that it's actually a total failure of the society. Society are now encompassing the government, civil society, social society, the family, and especially the religious houses, where sometimes you are respected according to the depth of the depth of your pocket. So it's a total collapse of society.
Okay, now I'll go to this now. You were a member of PDP. In fact, you've been there for a very long time, and you just resigned from the party just about a week or 2 ago, and the news was, rude shock to everybody in the state, in Kogi State, and even across the states, especially the youth, those who really are following you. They are like, why did you have to leave? Why didn't you stay? And the rest of it. What particularly made you take that action? And what are you looking up to?
Well, I'm so pleased that someone as informed as you are is now telling me that it actually shook the place. I didn't realize I'm that important.
You are.
So this actually comes with some happiness, thing of happiness within the system. Now, having said so, some months ago, I was traveling from the homeland to Abuja to catch a flight, and I got somewhere along the road and my car developed the problem, and I had a flight to catch back to Lagos. We're on the road for about 30 minutes until we got one Otisumi. Now, when they tell you Otisumi, in Lagos is this car don't tire me. It's a car that is not even a car. A car that will have the tires of 16 here, 18 here, 14 here, and then the engine is Peugeot, the body is that was the kind of car. But I needed to get to Abuja, So that was the car I boarded until I got to the airport road and got home. Now, when I got to the house, my family didn't ask me what car you boarded, how you came. The important that I got home to achieve what I needed to achieve.
Exactly.
So this is actually for me a good, a good hypothetical explanation of what has happened. The PDP does no longer serve, the purpose that I want, and the time has come for me to say, you know what, we'll have a good relationship. The time has come for me to move on. I am not one of those politicians. In fact, I'm not a politician. I'm a professional in politics. I'm not one of those professionals in politics who, because there's been a separation, you go back to Lampon where you are coming from. If I'm a divorcee today, the only thing I would say about my wife would be the good things that we shared. So I wouldn't Lampon the party, but I think by the time you hear the announcement where I'm going to, I'll be going to a better place that will deliver the goods through me for the people.
What are those things, that party? I don't know whether you are going to another political party or not, but what is that thing that will motivate you to join that party? But before we continue with that, let us go on a short break. We will be right back. Please stay tuned. You are welcome back, and this is Generations Gist with Joy. If you are just joining us, I am speaking with Dr. Victor Alewo Adoji, and the topic is youth development and leadership in Nigeria. Doctor, we're talking about how you left the PDP, and what is that thing that will motivate you to join the party you are about to join? If you would like to tell us which of the party, would you mind?
Okay, every researcher or consultant will tell you there are basically two instruments they use for their analysis, or for their work. One is analysis, and the other one is analytics. Now, what analytics does for you is to actually bring the future before you, and what analysis does is to actually tell you how the past has operated.
Yes.
Now, I have done this too, and analytics has shown that my future no longer resides to the PDP. And those things that were missing, in the PDP that did not deliver the goods, are found elsewhere. And I'm sure my associates who are currently in the political marketplace will come up with their findings for which decision will be reached in the next 48 hours. Like
you said, Doctor, you have been an active, we all know, you've been an active player in the private sector. That is where we know you to be, and majorly in the banking industry, and specifically with Zenith Bank at the top management level. Then you went into politics. What was the motivation to joining politics? And has it been what you really expected it to be?
Well, you see, the banking industry, like you all know, is called the organized private sector. And politics is called the public sector. And the reason why there was that transitioning from the private to the public is for me to see if I am able to get the opportunity to serve a larger number of people. Yeah. The total number of staff within the bank when I left should be between maximum 8,000 people. And then the customer, the bank services, I'm not sure of what it was then, cannot be more than 30 million. So the highest sphere of influence I would have operated within would have been either 7,000, or 30 million people. Okay. But we are talking about getting into a space where you'll be able to impact 220 million lives positively. One. And secondly, whilst I was instrumental to the opening of the 3 branches of the bank we had in Kogi East, in Ankpa, in Ida, and the cash center in Ida, the cash center in Ida, and the branch in Ankpa and Angba. Okay. How would I have been able to, as it were, metastasize its impact to affect the other people who are even not debanked, those who are financially excluded. So with the knowledge I've gathered professionally, academically and otherwise, I felt getting into public space will afford me the opportunity to bring Nigeria to my people and my people to Nigeria. So that was actually the main reason. It was, for me, a very difficult decision. It was for me a decision that sacrificed my comfort, because I would have stayed in the bank, be making my millions every month, enjoying my holidays and all that. But I decided to go into this murky water of politics where you are called all sorts of names, all sorts of rigs, apply your hard-earned money and all that. But as a Christian, if Jesus Christ could leave the comfort of his place in heaven with his Father to come and die for human, for us who are still sinners, who the hell am I not to die for my people while I'm still alive?
Okay, you know, I remember, I still know that the youth, you are a people's man, especially the youth across Kogi State and the country also, you know. Today, there is this clamor. Is it a clamor now? Because it's already at the National Assembly about the creation of new states, about 31 or 30. Some people say it's 60, you know, and the debate is still on. And I think from Kogi East, we have about one state, Okura State, and other 2 states proposal from other parts of Kogi. I think Lokoja State also and Okun State. Do you see, generally, not just in Kogi State, do you see this proposal as a viable one? Do you think the states that they are proposing right now will be able to sustain themselves economically?
Well, as a social scientist, I will ask us to look through situations, you know, scientifically, and not be beclouded by sentiments or emotions. But sitting here, I can, as it were, upend the collective wisdom of people who are clamoring for state, or sidestep their intentions and think I know much more than. There's a reason to which they're asking for this state creation, and the reasons are, you know, are founded, the reasons are genuine. I only hope that after all this is said and done, we'll sacrifice ourselves, you know, to begin to develop ourselves anew. We're actually talking about a renaissance, you know, across various sectors. We're talking about, you know, a change of the potpourri, you know, of our engagements. Because at the end of the day, it's not even about the number of states, you know, it's about our commitment to develop. So there is wisdom. It's just like saying to you, you know, between the wisdom, you know, of the rabbit and the fox, which do you choose? Then the answer will now be there, will be what is the end game?
Will you be able to say something about Kogi politics in your own perspective?
Well, you see, I will tell you, I will be able to, but I will tell you a little story before I say that. A father had 4 children and sent them out at different times to a forest. You know, one went in autumn, one went in summer, one went in winter, and the other went in spring. So he now brought them together and was asking each and every one of them, what did you see? And the argument ensued. No, I saw it was green. I saw it, there was blooming with flowers. You know, and by the time they were just, the whole place went, you know, erupted in arguments. And he calmed them down. He said, do you know what? They said, no. All of you are correct. Because you all went to the forest at different times, you know, when it was winter, when it was summer, spring, and then the forest, the ecosystem, you know, reacted differently within that period, that climatic, you know, those climatic conditions. So as for politics of Kogi State, you see, one thing people don't know is that politics is very, very fluid. The technique with which you won last year cannot suffice this year, you know, and because it is fluid, what I will tell you is that we'll go with the flow. But as for politics in Kogi State, the time has come for us to set aside sentiments, to set aside emotions, and look at the facts. Now, for as Nigeria-wide now, for as long as we continue to deceive ourselves that we're practicing democracy under the auspices of either plutocracy or kakistocracy, will never make progress. And I'll take time to explain this a bit. Plutocracy will infer, you know, having money give you the mandate, no matter the source of your money. And the kakistocracy will define a system where you have those who are the lowest in the society superintending over those who are the best of the society. These two, what I call headwinds, must change if our flight, must stabilize. Now, there are people who are better than all of us who are clamoring for offices today, but because they don't have the financial strength, nobody's talking to them. I am going to bring or introduce a new system very soon where we are going to start crowdfunding people. Where the market woman, the student, contribute your 50 naira or 1 naira to the candidate of your choice. So that at the end of the day, the candidate will not say me anymore. It will be us. And we. Exactly. Until we get to that point, we will not be able to institutionalize, our policies. All we need, for God's sake, is institutionalization. We don't want the key man syndrome, where you are key man and you are God. No, we should be talking about pushing together or pulling together. Otherwise, it will continue to be a fatal flight until we see the system as we and us, not as me and I.
And is that what is peculiar to Kogi politics?
Well, Kogi politics is not cast in isolation. Whatever I find in Kogi politics, you find elsewhere. I'm talking about the general spectrum as a country. We need an overhaul. One, we need two things. We need to do an overhaul of our system, and we need to do a course correction.
And how do we do that now? We need to do all these things.
Put me in office as a senator representing Kogi East, and then it may take time. I will evangelize a lot of my colleagues then out of the 109, and when I evangelize them, then this change can start from there. Because the truth of the issue is that a man that is actually, that convinced against his opinion is still of the same opinion. So we'll start from there. Let's first and foremost agree that there's a problem and that policy can help us do a course correction.
Yeah, talking about you calling and correcting some things, I would like to ask you. I remember in one of your statements you said Nigerian economic problem is as a result of psychological and social. Can you give it a lowdown, and how is that related to your ambition and what you want to give when you become the senator?
This is the simplest question you've asked me today.
Yeah.
When you have two people, and one tells you, I studied overseas, I traveled overseas, I wear designer clothes. And you have the next person who says to you, I did Kogi State University, did ABU Zaria, and I wear my traditional clothing. The Nigerian mentality will actually respect this one the more. So we tend to find validation, in foreign consumption. So when you talk of, for example, look at the points where we spend money. I tell you that I travel to, let's say, for example, Ghana. And it doesn't call for any discussion. But when I say I just came back from London, you want to have a conversation with me. So these things are psychological, where you are made to feel inferior as compared to the global north. So I have a shoe. I buy a shoe and I tell you this shoe is R&B. And somebody comes with a shoe and says, Abba. You respect the guy that buys the R&B because it is London. Yeah. It's psychological. So until we learn to respect the creativity and the enterprise of our local people, our psychological mindset will always pander towards foreign consumption. And for as long as we continue to do that, there will be pressure on the dollar, and there is no how the dollar will go down. Because how do you get this? How do you reach it? Why is it that the dollar keeps escalating? It's simple. You have so much naira chasing few dollars, and then the value keeps going up. But if we decide to work on the psychology of respecting what we take first, like happens in China and in Israel, so that monies that are created in Nigeria circulate within the system a minimum of 20 times before they spin off. I'm telling you, the dollar will come begging for the naira and the value will actually go down.
Through production.
Well, yeah, it can be. Let's even start from the mindset of
the people.
Of the people first. If you are making Abba shoes and you make 10 a day, 10 a month, and then the demand is 5 a month, you have a backlog of 5 that will transfer to you next month. But if all of a sudden we change our psychology of foreign consumption to local, and you have about 100 people coming, what that means therefore is that you have to produce more. And to produce more, you have to actually employ more people, you have to get bigger factories, and in doing that, you are creating a value chain, of people who supply rubber, people who supply water and all that. And that's actually the way the economy is reflected and money begins to go around. It all starts psychologically. Most of our economic problems have their foundation in our psychology and in our sociology. And that's my argument.
Again, talking about your ambition, what do you think you will do differently from people who have been senators from your area?
Well, you see, this is, I wouldn't want to cast aspersions on anyone. But I would rather allow the audience to ask themselves, what have they done up until this point? Now, let me explain this to you. The work of a legislator is primarily three. Primarily three. Number one, lawmaking. Number two, oversight. And there's a third one, override. That is basically it. But you see, because of the way the system has deliberately crashed the local government infrastructure, you now have lawmakers who do the work of local government chairmen. The fact that you bring palliatives, you give keke napep, you give motorcycles, that you are doing empowerment. I don't understand how that is empowerment and how that is their job. It's because of the failure of a particular infrastructure that has been atrophied by reason of, atrophied either deliberately or inadvertently. So what I'm saying is, we are, as lawmakers, you are actually, elected to make laws and to exercise oversight and override. Let's empower the local governments to the extent that they can stand on their own. And then a senator or a House of Rep member will not have issues going to paint classrooms or going to build classrooms. That is actually a local government job. The second thing is that we need to actually look at that Pandora box called the either exclusive list or concurrence list or whatever list it is. We need to unbundle it and push some things out from the exclusive list so that can open up, the investment space. So this is actually what the lawmakers, can do. So it's about going back to do what they actually appointed to do.
Yeah, I want to talk about the rotational leadership in Kogi State. The Kogi East have been producing governors. The Kogi Central have had their own share. I think the Kogi West now are clamoring for the same thing. What do you think about that?
You see, this question has myriad answers, depending on who you're asking. While I don't kick at rotation, rotation will take secondary position when it comes to quality of leadership for me. So it's not about who leads, it's about how I'm impacted and how my society, is impacted. Even globally, in terms of in the Nigerian sense, people talk about you go to the south, come to the north, go to the south, come to the north. But what I'm saying, for God's sake, is about the quality of of leadership, and that brings me to a very, very important concept: shared leadership. Shared leadership, where at every point you find yourself, you are a leader. And people must actually know that once you point at a leader, you actually point for a position of leadership as well. Because, for example, if you board, a commercial bus, you can be a captain of industry in a commercial bus. At that point, your leader is actually the driver. Yeah. In fact, when you go to a barber shop, the person who is your leader at that point is actually the guy taking care of your hair. Yeah. So at every point in time, we are leaders per time. So in terms of rotation or no rotation, I will actually say quality will trump rotation for me any day. However, it is important that in a committee, in a communion, everybody is given the sense, of belonging.
Okay, now there is this, the North Central Development Commission bill was approved recently by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and I think it was signed into law. It has joined the NDDC, the Northwest Commission, and the likes of them. What do you think will be the potential benefits for the region, the pressing need for an inclusion, and the dynamic leadership approach, particularly as it concerns youth development, to ensure it succeeds or its success?
You see, you cannot analyze silence. I have not seen the details of this document, but again, one can do a juxtaposition to the degree that you ask, what has NDDC achieved since its formation till now, and you now begin to see what others can achieve. But again, I want you to cast your mind back to when Nigeria shared they said excess crude. You remember when they said excess crude? The time we shared this excess crude was when Saudi Arabia set up its sovereign trust fund. Now, My layman's understanding of excess is when something is full and pouring. And then a country that is in need, captioned that as excess. You cannot have an excess when even the cup is not full. And what happened was that the states and local governments shared the funds. And from the readings, opinions, and columnists we've read over the years, we now discover where these funds are found, their ways to. But the Saudi Arabia people set up a sovereign trust fund. And you know what they did? They pulled the fund together and focused solely on infrastructure. They focused solely on infrastructure. Now, in a layman's language, they built the industry that will lay the eggs that will bring in the money. So all these development commissions were forming. I would be very, very happy if they are based infrastructure oriented 100%. We can even start from focus only on electricity. Only. Because the problem is, you want to do so many things and the funds are limited. So you start all things and they become white elephant projects. So focus on just one. All the development commissions, what your mandate is for the next 4 years, electricity. And I'm telling you, once you lay the foundation, that's actually what they call the superstructure or the infrastructure on which the other structures of development will suffice. Now we must, in this country, begin to see development from 3 areas. Development as service, development as platform, and development as as a service platform and infrastructure. So we need to have our priorities right. Yes, fantastic we have set up the development commissions. And then the next thing, you hear the DG of the commission saying, oh, they've bought 100 tractors, they've given to farmers, they've bought keke napep given to farmers. But the underlying problem for the issue of mechanizing agriculture in Nigeria is not even in the tractors. So we need to do a forensic analysis of what the issues are. The issues is with our Land Use Act. And I'll give you a simple example. I'm a village man. When I say village, I'm from a village.
Of course.
Where I can say we have, let's say, about 1,000, farmers. Now, every farmer goes to their, farmland to till, to work, and bring in the produce, at the end of the season. But all their efforts put together can be done by maybe about 3, 4, or 5 tractors. But you know what? Those who actually bring these tractors to farm on their land will just farm the limited space and then take the tractors away, or the tractors are developed first, or they leave them. But you can imagine if the entire village decides to say, you know what? We yield our proprietorship, as it were, ownership of this land to a common body. And let the tractors come and do all the job. And based on the size of your land that we have ab initio, we'll take our produce to the farm and we'll sell and now pay everybody according to their land ownership. One, the produce will be more. The produce will be more secure. And all sorts of things can happen. But everybody wants to be, na me get the farm. Na me get the farm. So we need to look at certain traditional traditions, practice, norms, ethics, cultures, etiquettes that are kept us under, and agree that this actually no longer serve modern purpose or current purpose. Work on them, then we can begin to actually build on those agreements that we have there from.
No, like I may say, but I'm trying to ask you a question. This North Central Development Commission, do you see, because of the diversity of the zone, what do you think will be the challenge?
The challenge is diversity.
Yes.
So what the solution will now be will be inclusion. So you have actually mentioned the challenge in your question.
Yes.
So the challenge is how to manage diversity. And the surest, sincerest way of managing diversity is inclusion.
Okay. Now, you were aspirants for governorship aspirants under PDP. I think you did it under ADC, APC, ADC and PDP. And Senate too. What was actually your experience?
Now, I was never a governorship aspirant under. Yeah, I was never an aspirant. I was never a governorship aspirant under ADC. I was a governorship aspirant under PDP, but I stepped down even before the contest, so I never went the whole hog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I stepped down. I didn't go the whole hog for that contest. Okay. And in terms of my experience, like I said to you, It's actually very difficult to have a private sector person come into this space. You want to do things based on principles, based on strategy, and based on logic. And sometimes you find out that is not what the people want. This time around, I think I've learned. Yeah. And I will get the people to hear what they want to hear. Okay. While not mortgaging my principles at the same time.
Because of time, I would like you to, in 20 seconds, what advice do you have for the youth, especially in your zone, maybe across the country? In 20 seconds.
Simple. Illegitimate money won't take you far. Be hopeful, be creative, be entrepreneurial. The platform will come for you to express yourself, and all of us will be better for it at the end of the day.
Hi, thank you so much for coming on this show, Dr. Victor Aleo Adoji. Thank you so much. In fact, we'll be looking forward to more discussion and conversation, because I know you have a lot, to say to us and to the public. Thank you so much. And we've been on set with Dr. Victor Aleo Adoji, and you could see and hear all he has to say and more. Well, this is the much we can take on this week's episode of Generations Gist with Joy. But before we go, don't forget to always be a part of this show by following us on all our social media platforms. Please send an email to generationsgistwithjoy@gmail.com for inquiry, sponsorship, and advert placement. Until I come your way, same time next week, remember, your generation is your identity. Let us continue to be our brother's keeper and remain a patriotic Nigeria. I am Joy Onu. See you next week.